Welcome to the Deep Dive podcast channel.
Great to be here.
Today we're exploring something that, well, it touches a lot of lives, often in ways people don't even realize at first. We're talking about the psychological manipulation tactics used by individuals, often those with narcissistic tendencies.
That's right. And these tactics, they can leave you feeling incredibly confused, doubting yourself, wondering what's even real anymore.
Exactly. Maybe you felt that feeling like your reality is constantly being questioned, or that feeling of always walking on eggshells around someone.
It's a very isolating experience, and understanding what's actually happening, the mechanics behind it, that's really the first step towards clarity and healing, ultimately.
Absolutely. So if this topic resonates, or maybe you're just curious about these complex relationship dynamics, we really hope you'll subscribe to the Deep Dive for more explorations like this.
We aim to make this a space where it feels, safe to learn and reflect. These aren't easy things to talk about.
Definitely not. And please feel free to show your thoughts or questions in the comments. We genuinely value hearing from you. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's delve into the hidden damage of narcissistic manipulation.
Yeah.
What's really driving these behaviors? What's at the heart of it?
Well, at its core, you often find a very, very fragile sense of self-worth. It sounds counterintuitive, right? Because outwardly, there's this inflated ego, this grandiosity.
Right, that confidence.
Exactly. But underneath, it's often masking deep insecurity. So this constant craving for admiration, for control, for emotional dominance, it becomes a kind of survival strategy for them.
A strategy to prop up that fragile self.
Precisely. Manipulation becomes the tool to get what they need, that narcissistic supply, the attention, the validation to keep their self-image intact. But for the person on the receiving end, it's a battlefield.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it protects them but damages the other person. Let's break down some specific tactics. Gaslighting, that term comes up a lot. What does it actually look like?
Gaslighting is fundamentally about making someone doubt their own reality, their perception, their memory, even their sanity.
How, what do they say?
Oh, it can be blatant denials. That never happened. You're making it up. Or twisting things. I didn't yell. You're just too sensitive. Sometimes it's dismissing your feelings. You're overreacting. I was just joking.
That just joking line can be brutal.
It really can. Or they might try to make you feel isolated, saying things like, you're crazy. Everyone thinks so. The goal is to destabilize your trust in yourself.
And the impact of that. Constantly being told what you feel or remember is wrong.
It's incredibly corrosive. It creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, holding two conflicting beliefs, like, I know what I saw versus they insist it didn't happen. Over time, this erodes your trust in your own mind, your own judgment.
Leading to anxiety.
Yeah.
Self-doubt.
Definitely. Chronic self-doubt, anxiety, constantly seeking external validation. You essentially start outsourcing your sense of reality to the manipulator. It can even impact, brain function, wearing down trust in your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain.
Wow. Okay, another tactic often mentioned is love bombing. Sounds nice.
It feels amazing at first. That's the hook. Love bombing is this intense, overwhelming shower of affection, attention, praise right at the beginning.
So lots of compliments, gifts, constant contact.
Exactly. Grand gestures, future faking, talking about your amazing future together very early on. It feels like you found your soulmate, someone who just gets you instantly.
But it's not genuine.
The key thing is the motive and the speed. It's not about genuine connection. It's about control.
Yeah.
It's designed to get you hooked quickly, to make you dependent on that intense validation.
How does it work so well?
It basically hijacks the brain's reward system. All that intense positive attention floods your brain with dopamine and oxytocin, the feel-good bonding chemicals.
So it creates a kind of addiction.
Yes, precisely. You get addicted to that feeling, that high. And then inevitably the love bombing stops. The affection vanishes or becomes conditional.
Leaving you desperate to get that feeling back.
Exactly. You keep chasing that initial euphoria, hoping the good person will return, which keeps you trapped in the cycle long after the manipulation starts.
Okay, what about triangulation? That sounds complicated. Involving a third person.
It is. Triangulation means bringing a third party, sometimes real, sometimes maybe even imagined or exaggerated, into the dynamic to manipulate emotions.
How would they do that?
Common examples include constantly comparing you unfavorably to an ex, or flirting outrageously with someone else right in front of you, or always talking about how much someone else admires them or supports them, implying you don't measure up.
Ouch. What's the goal there? Just to make you jealous.
Jealousy, insecurity, competition. Yes. The aim is to make you feel inadequate, like you have to fight for their attention and prove your worth. It keeps you off balance and focused on earning their approval rather than questioning their behavior.
I read an example somewhere of someone saying he's always talking about how his ex was more supportive. And she started trying harder just to prove him wrong.
That's a classic triangulation scenario. It makes you internalize this feeling of inadequacy, that love isn't freely given. It's something you have to constantly earn by outdoing some rival.
It sounds incredibly exhausting.
It is, and deeply damaging to your self-esteem in the long run.
Okay, let's talk about blame shifting. The name kind of says it all, right?
It does. With blame shifting, the narcissist avoids taking any responsibility for their own actions. No matter what happens, it's always somehow your fault.
You could give an example.
Sure. Things like, I only yelled because you pushed my buttons, or if you weren't so clingy, I wouldn't need space, or even blaming you for their own bad choices. I wouldn't have had to lie if you weren't so judgmental.
Wow. So they twist it. So their behavior is a reaction to your flaw.
Exactly. It protects their ego, avoids accountability, and for you, it creates this constant sense of guilt and confusion. You start believing you are the problem.
Which must destroy self-trust too.
Absolutely. It leads to hypervigilance, constantly monitoring your own behavior, walking on eggshells, trying desperately not to do the thing that will supposedly make them act out again.
Another tactic is the silent treatment. How is that different from just needing space?
That's a crucial distinction. Needing space is healthy. The silent treatment is weaponized absence. It's not about cooling down, it's about punishment and control.
So intentionally withholding communication, affection.
Yes. Ignoring calls, texts, refusing to speak, withdrawing physically and emotionally, it's designed to make you feel punished, anxious, and desperate to reconnect.
What does that do to the person experiencing it?
Oh, it can trigger intense anxiety, confusion, feelings of abandonment. You're left scrambling, asking, what did I do wrong? How do I fix this? Why are they ignoring me?
It taps into deep fears, doesn't it?
It really does. Fear of abandonment is primal. The silent treatment activates that panic response, often leading the target to apologize profusely or make concessions just to end the torment, even if they did nothing wrong. It reinforces the manipulator's control.
Then there's projection. What does that mean in this context?
Projection is essentially a defense mechanism where they accuse you of the very things they're doing or feeling. Like a partner who is cheating accuses you constantly of being flirty or unfaithful. Or someone who lies pathologically calls you the liar. Someone controlling accuses you of trying to control them.
So they're dumping their own negative traits onto you.
Exactly. You're the liar in this relationship. You're trying to control me. You're the one who's always starting drama. It deflects from their own behavior and avoids self-awareness.
And the effect on the recipient.
It's incredibly confusing and damaging. You start to internalize this false guilt, wondering, am I really like that? It's another way they distort your reality and make you doubt yourself.
This next one, intermittent reinforcement, sounds almost scientific.
It's a concept from behavioral psychology, actually, and it's incredibly powerful in abusive dynamics. It means rewards in this case, affection, praise, kindness, are given randomly and unpredictably.
So not consistent punishment, but random bursts of good mixed with the bad.
Precisely. One day they're criticizing you, giving you the silent treatment. The next, they might be incredibly loving or complimentary for no clear reason. Back to negative. You never know what version you're going to get.
Why is that so effective at keeping someone stuck?
Because the unpredictability is addictive. It keeps your brain on high alert, always hoping for the reward, for the good person to reappear. Neurologically, it mimics the pattern of gambling addiction.
Like pulling a slot machine lever hoping for a win.
Exactly. That uncertainty creates a very strong emotional dependency. You tolerate the bad times because you're hooked on the possibility of the intermittent good times returning. It makes leaving incredibly difficult.
And what about when someone does manage to leave or gets discarded? What's hoovering? Sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
It kind of is. Hoovering is the narcissist's attempt to suck you back into the relationship after you've tried to go no contact or after they ended things.
How do they do that?
It can take many forms. Sudden apologies, declarations that I've changed, promises it will be different this time. Sometimes it's manufactured crises where they need your help, or guilt-laced messages like, I miss you so much, no one understands me like you do, I can't live without you.
Is it ever genuine?
Rarely, if ever. The goal is almost always about regaining control and access to narcissistic. Supply your attention, your emotion, your resources. It's not about love or real change. Once they've hoovered you back in, the old patterns almost inevitably return.
Going through all of this, the long-term impact must be immense. Psychologically, emotionally.
Absolutely. The long-term effects can be severe. We often see complex post-traumatic stress disorder or CPTSD develop.
Which is different from regular PTSD.
Yes, CPTSD arises from prolonged, repeated trauma, like ongoing emotional abuse, rather than a single event. Symptoms can include chronic anxiety, depression, difficulties with emotional regulation, hypervigilance.
You mentioned brain effects earlier, too.
Right. Chronic stress and emotional trauma can actually change the brain. The amygdala, the fear center, can become hyperactive, leading to constant feelings of threat. The hippocampus, involved in memory, can shrink, affecting memory consolidation. We see issues like brain fog, difficulty concentrating.
And the emotional toll.
Profound, emotional numbing, feeling disconnected. A deep erosion of self-worth, self-trust, loss of identity even. People feel like they don't know who they are anymore outside of that dynamic. And fundamentally, a loss of trust in others and in their own judgment of reality.
The term emotional dysregulation came up. What does that look like day to day for a survivor?
It means emotions can feel overwhelming and hard to manage. Maybe overreacting to small things or feeling triggered easily into intense fear or anger. Or conversely, feeling numb, unable to access emotions, kind of frozen.
It's like the body's alarm system is broken.
In a way, yes. The nervous system has adapted to being in a constant state of chaos or threat. So emotional responses become dysregulated. And crucially, this makes it really hard to trust your own feelings, your gut instincts, because they feel so out of whack or unreliable.
It sounds like a really difficult place to be. How can someone even begin to tell the difference early on? Spotting red flags versus just, normal relationship bumps.
That's a great question. It's about patterns, isn't it? Healthy relationships have disagreements, but there's mutual respect, validation of feelings, taking responsibility. Narcissistic dynamics feel fundamentally different.
Can you contrast some of these tactics with healthy behaviors, like love bombing versus...
Right. Love bombing is intense, fast, possessive. Healthy connection builds gradually, respects boundaries, allows space. Gaslighting invalidates your reality. Healthy communication involves validating feelings, even during disagreement. I understand why you feel that way, even if I see it differently.
And blame shifting versus...
accountability. In healthy relationships, people own their mistakes, apologize sincerely. Blame shifting is constant deflection. Silent treatment versus taking space. One is punishment, the other is communicated respectfully for self-regulation.
So a key takeaway is if the relationship feels like a constant emotional roller coaster, full of extreme highs and lows, confusion, feeling like you're always doing something wrong, that's a major red flag.
Absolutely. Healthy relationships might have ups and downs, but they generally feel safe, consistent, and respectful. That constant chaotic energy, the feeling of walking on eggshells that's a sign something, is deeply unhealthy.
For someone listening who recognizes these patterns, maybe in a past or even current situation, what does healing look like? Where do they start? It sounds overwhelming.
It can feel overwhelming, but healing is absolutely possible. The first crucial step is acknowledgement. Naming the abuse for what it is. Recognizing its impact without blaming yourself. That validation is huge.
And then
Seeking support is vital. Ideally, finding a trauma-informed therapist, someone who really understands narcissistic abuse dynamics and CPTSD. Modalities like EMDR or internal family systems, IFS, can be very effective.
what about rebuilding that shattered self-trust?
That's a core part of the journey. It often involves practices that reconnect you to yourself. Journaling can help process experiences and validate feelings. Inner child work can address early wounds that might have made one vulnerable. Somatic healing, focusing on the body's stored trauma, can release tension and regulate the nervous system.
And practical steps.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
Essential. Learning to set and enforce firm boundaries is key to reclaiming your power and safety. This might mean limiting contact with the abusive person, or in many cases, going completely no contact if possible and safe to do so.
That sounds difficult but necessary.
It often is. And joining support groups, online or in person, can be incredibly validating. Connecting with others who get it reduces isolation and provides shared strength. Really, healing is about coming home to yourself, trusting yourself again.
That's a hopeful way to frame it. We've covered so much. Maybe we could touch on a few frequently asked questions people have about this.
Sure, absolutely. Happy to.
Okay, one I hear a lot. Can a narcissist change? Like, if you confront them, show them the impact of their behavior.
That's the hope, isn't it? Unfortunately, because these patterns are so deeply ingrained and often tied to their core sense of self, genuine, lasting change is rare. Confrontation usually leads to more denial, gaslighting, blame shifting, or even narcissistic rage. They're highly resistant to seeing themselves as flawed.
So probably not a productive path. Another question, is therapy really essential for healing? Can people do it on their own?
People are resilient and self-help can definitely contribute. But given the complexity of the trauma, especially if CPTSD is involved, therapy significantly accelerates and deepens the healing. A good therapist provides tools, guidance, and a safe space to process things that are incredibly difficult to navigate alone, particularly trauma-focused therapies.
Makes sense. What about hoovering? Why is it often so effective even when someone knows the relationship was toxic?
Ah, yes. It taps into powerful things. Hope. For one, the hope that this time it will be different. It also plays on loneliness, the desire for connection, maybe unresolved feelings or trauma bonds, and often the hoovering messages are designed to trigger guilt or obligation. It's manipulation targeting vulnerability.
Right. And we touched on the brain impact, but maybe just summarize again. How does this abuse actually affect the brain?
Primarily, it dysregulates the nervous system. The amygdala, fear center, becomes overactive. The hippocampus, memory learning, can be weakened. Stress hormones are chronically elevated. This leads to that persistent anxiety, fear, brain fog, memory issues, and difficulty regulating emotions. It literally wires the brain for threat.
It's physiological, not just emotional.
Exactly. Another common, painful question. Why do I still miss them even though I know they were toxic?
That must be so confusing.
It is. It often goes back to the love bombing and intermittent reinforcement. That initial phase creates a powerful, almost addictive bond. You miss the fantasy, the idealized person you thought they were, the intensity of those early feelings. It's often entangled with trauma bonding, which is complex. You're missing the illusion, not the reality of the abuse.
Okay, last one. How can someone practically start rebuilding self-trust after it's been so damaged?
It's a gradual process. Start small. Make small decisions and honor them. Pay attention to your gut feelings, even if they're quiet at first, and try acting on them in low-stakes situations. Validate your own feelings. Tell yourself it's okay to feel this way. Keep a journal of times your intuition was right. Practice saying no. And crucially, spend time with safe, supportive people who validate you and respect your boundaries. Each small step builds confidence.
That's really practical advice, thank you. This exploration, it really highlights how insidious and impactful narcissistic manipulation is. It's a serious form of emotional abuse.
It truly is. And understanding these tactics, recognizing the patterns, it's not about blame. It's about awareness and protection.
Absolutely. It's that crucial first step towards recognizing unhealthy dynamics, prioritizing your own well-being, and knowing you deserve relationships based on respect and safety. And remember, if you've been through this, the journey of healing, of rebuilding that trust in yourself, it's not easy, but it's possible. It's really a testament to your own strength and resilience.
It really is.
We definitely encourage you to keep exploring this, learn more, and please reach out for support if these patterns feel familiar. Your emotional safety, your sense of reality, they are absolutely paramount.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today and sharing your expertise.
Thank you for having me. It's important work.
We hope this exploration has offered some valuable insights. We look forward to our next conversation here on the Deep Dive.